TF Wire presents War Stories, a fan fiction podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of TF Wire's War Stories, Episode 5. I am your host, Steven Slash Megatron. The story I am reading tonight is called Transformers: Age of Dissolution. This is a fanfic that is written by me. Space. Cold, barren, and nothingness. Vast darkness was upon him with the exception of the lights from the millions of stars glowing around his figure. His body, also dark, was shackled to the top side of the shuttle. His arms, legs, and waist all pinned, unable to move. He had grown tired since the struggle that made him end up here. Primary power offline and secondary slowly depleting. Helplessness. The dark creature who lay sprawled out thought to himself of old mistakes and the many failures. Now he would have his time to reflect and to possibly change the course of the future. His future. Long ago, in the course of these 3 long years that had changed him as well as his captors, he had discovered that he alone controlled his destiny, and that of Cybertron itself. His previous plan should have led to victory and defeat of the Maximals. The objects that had stood in his way were merely the Maximals and his traitorous reptilian clone. Now, things shall take a different course, he thought to himself. The only things currently in his way were these shackles attached to his abdomen, arms, and legs. The dark entity thought to himself while the Autobot shuttle the Maximals had acquired opened transwarp space. To see the vortex open before him sent the start of a new idea, the reclaiming of his world, Cybertron. He would have to wait to spring his escape for a few more nanoclicks. Maybe the virus he had researched in his time on prehistoric Earth could actually be of some use, should he reach Cybertron before his enemies. The shuttle entered transwarp space. The glow upon the shuttle from the vortex grew brighter. The raw energy flowing around him shook the shuttle, cracking the controls on one of the shackles. He continued to remain calm as he returned as much power as he could allow into all of his limbs. He shook the shuttle. Again and again, harder and harder, until his dragon arm broke free. He ripped the other shackles off as fast as he could, biting his cyber chains completely apart. The force upon the shuttle sent him smashing back against the shuttle and off the end. The rocket energy scorched his body as he was sent hurtling into transwarp space. His powerless form surged through space as he went offline completely, drifting farther and farther behind. The shuttle going forward as his form faded out of view completely. The ship maintaining course with the future would now begin to worry, for their captive is gone. The blue space surged and rocked the shuttle as it continued onward. Chapter 1. Predacon High Council. The table slowly begins to rise from within the darkness. At the center of the darkness a small, weak light dangled. Also with the tables rising came 3 equally dark chairs with that of the Predacon Council. A figure, small and lithe, was in the view of the light. His face looked gaunt, and facial features looked underdeveloped. Predacon was his name, given by the long-past Dark One. The figure beside him had features that of Megatron, but was more of a warrior in image and size. Both tall and muscular in size this figure was. Out of the 3, he was the first to speak.
Predacon Council now in session.
His deep voice still lingered in the hollow room. The one known as C-Clamp spoke next as the lights continued to dangle above.
Ramhorn, has the subject within question been apprehended?
No,
he replied sternly.
We currently don't know the subject's present location. He hasn't been heard from since about the time Agent Ravage was sent to capture the creature.
However,
Predacon started.
Agent Ravage, as well as his ship, hasn't been heard from since. We have to assume the subject has taken care of the threat against him and planned accordingly for future occurrences.
How could we win a confrontation with Agent Ravage and the Maximals? How could he defeat our finest bounty hunter as well as the Decepticon elite?
The one in which you speak of isn't to be underestimated. He is not stupid nor a fool. The gaze of Ramhorn was upon the two with deep thought.
What are our options at this point?
Either continue the search or assume the best for our sakes.
C-Clamp finished.
Very well.
The deep voice said, turning back to the real business at hand.
We have but 18 megacycles before the Maximals return as heroes to the people, and further put us into submission. We have to act now!
His fist came down hard upon the surface of the table, putting several cracks in the cybernetic buttons.
How will we do this? We have to be very cautious as to not get the Maximal's attention.
Then we must dispose of the Elders in quiet.
How? The Maximals outnumber us 10 to 1. There would not be a chance of any survival. It would be suicide.
Very well. We will wait upon the next meeting to further discuss this matter. Predacon Council adjourned.
The lights in the great room dimmed as the chairs in the council slowly sank into the darkness. In the far corner of the room, two litly dimmed eyes sat staring upon the descending council. The shadow went into the darkness as well. Elsewhere, within the ancient walls of Old Iacon lies the Maximal Council of Elders. They sat in the cold and dark citadel, the same one the Autobot Council of Elders sat in centuries before them. There were a great many of leaders within the council added over the millennium. In the center of the room there was a platform. Upon that platform stood a very distinguished general. His head blue with slightly golden fins on the sides. He was a large bot, now free from a beast form.
I'm telling you, Primal still lives and is battling Megatron and his ragtag army as I speak. They were on prehistoric Earth. I saw Prime and the Ark, and all that could possibly wipe us out. We need to act now,
yelled the tall Maximal. One of the council members who slightly resembled Prime stood and addressed the Maximal. His cloak flew as he stood showing his great form.
Depth charge. We understand what you are saying, however it is a bit far-fetched. The Ark, the great Optimus Prime of legend, and all those ancients within.
There is nothing that you can prove. Could you possibly elaborate? Another question I have is, how is it you have been revived? Or how did you travel here? He growled.
I already told you. Megatron stole our artifact of the Golden Disc and learned the mission of the original Megatron. The original didn't get the chance to complete his mission because of his epic battle with Prime, before Unicron changed him to Galvatron. He saved it for any descendant who would find and achieve his victory for him.
He paused, letting it soak into the council's heads.
Primal was closest to Megatron at the time, so he pursued. His ship, being the only one capable of transwarp flight, fought Megatrons until they crashed upon Earth, about a little after the Ark had. Later, Megatron discovered the planet to be Earth. He began shaping his own idea of the future. Realizing he had the power to create his ultimate dream, he ended up gaining the Nemesis and Rampage. I was destroyed as X was terminated. The Predacons blew up a satellite to prevent them from contacting you. They sent Ravage instead, and he ended up dead as well. I was the next helping hand for the Maximals. After my demise, I resurfaced in my own cryogenic tanks to a new body.
This is... He was cut short by depth charge.
I don't have any more time for talk. Give me some troops and I will stop the Predacons myself. I can tell you this. If I were a Pred, I'd be already plotting to wipe out all of you and take Cybertron.
He stormed off, leaving the elders to contemplate this new information. He punched the door, transformed, and flew out the rest of the way into the skies. Chapter 2. A small light blinked on a terminal within a vast array of terminals. There were 8 screens all aligned together. Within one, a red flashing light came, along with an alert siren. On the workstation, a small yellow button flashed as well. A small 3-fingered hand reached forward, pressing the button. The signal on the terminal stopped. The hand fell back into the darkness, not lit up by the screen of the terminal. An undead horror, a treacherous spawn of the Chaos Bringer himself, sat pondering the news as it came to him.
Ah,
He spoke with surprise.
so they did survive.
He cackled. The sound of it was sick and twisted, yet calm. He continued to stare at the screen. He watched closely as the diagram showed an ancient Autobot shuttle closing fast through transwarp space towards Cybertron. Those who
stood in the way of me and the Predacon Council will wish they had died back on Earth.
He cackled again before returning his attention to the screens.
I remember only too well what happened to me. Only the outcome was far more than I could have imagined.
2 dark skeletal heads spiraled around his new silver and black form. One of the heads was red and the other green.
Since my demise and the beast world, I've become 100 times stronger. And now, with the vast power of the Valk, I can even create my own army.
His dark lair was lit only by the screens, 2 energon pylons, and hundreds of small lit-up spider drones. Toward the back of the room, several nucleon tanks held his newest creations. One who just recently came online stood near the tanks, monitoring the vital signs of his new brethren. He too was silver and black, only his form was very similar to Transmetal 2 Cheetor.
Predacon agent,
Called the one with the spiraled heads.
How long before the others can be awakened?
His voice was deep and scratchy as he spoke.
In about 4 megacycles, all the agents are forming very well. Plus, the one specific agent is going to be ready a little sooner.
Excellent,
He cackled.
Soon my army will be ready. And both the Maximals and everyone else who stand in my way shall be destroyed.
He shrieked. And that's the end. If you'd like your story to be read on the show, please post it in the War Stories area on the TFWire forums. After doing that, all you have to do is give us permission to use it in a future podcast. This is Steven Slash Megatron, signing off.
The preceding story was not endorsed by Hasbro and is meant for entertainment purposes only. All fanfiction stories are copyrighted to their respective authors, and all fanfiction stories used within this podcast are used with permission from the author. This has been a TFWire.com production.